Roth conversion can be a powerful strategy when done right. So when are the right times to do it? I've got 3 times you need to consider doing a Roth conversion. That and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. The Roth conversion could be an enormous strategy for you if it's applied at the right times, okay? A Roth conversion is when you've contributed up pre-tax into an IRA or 401k and you decide, all right, now is a good time for me to, instead of having all that money continue to grow tax deferred and I'll pay tax later, you decide, I want to pay tax on that money right now. And instead of taking it out of your account and putting it in your possession, you convert it. You move that money from pre-tax over to your Roth IRA or Roth 401k for that matter. It doesn't matter, but you convert it. You transfer it from your IRA, from your pre-tax account into your Roth account, okay? When you do that, you pay tax. You've got to claim that income. The amount that you move from your IRA to your Roth, the amount you convert is taxable. You've got to claim that on your tax return. So you pay tax on that 1 year, but now that money is sitting in your Roth IRA and can grow for the rest of your life until you withdraw it, can grow tax-free, okay? Still tax sheltered, all the capital gains, dividends, buys, sells, all that stuff, none of that shows up on your tax return each year when you're doing it. But that money is growing now in your Roth account, your Roth IRA, and when you withdraw it, all the growth is tax-free. Sounds like a great idea. When would you do it? Doing it at the wrong time could be huge mistakes, very costly, and not something you'd want to do. When are the 3 times that you should consider it? Well, I'm going to tell you, always work with your certified financial planner because there's more than just 3 times that you'd want to consider doing a Roth conversion. However, you could categorize many of those opportunities, those opportunistic time periods, classify many of them into one of these 3 categories. So the first time, the very first scenario when you should consider doing a Roth conversion is when you find yourself in a low tax bracket today and believe you'll be in a higher tax bracket in the future. That is precisely the time period when you would say, yeah, I've got this money I've never paid tax on. I'm in a low tax bracket right now. I will voluntarily choose to pay tax on this money now so that it will grow tax-free for my future, okay? So if you believe, I don't care if you're in a higher tax bracket today than you were last year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, but if you are in what you would call a low tax bracket today and believe your taxes will be higher in the future, either because you believe tax rates are going up or you believe your income's gonna go up and you'll be in a higher tax bracket in the future, then that's a time when you should consider doing a Roth conversion. Okay, so when you're young, this might apply to you. If you're in a lower paying job right now or even a higher paying job, but you believe you'll be in a higher, even higher paying job out there in the future, that might also be a time period. Maybe early on in retirement, before you've started Social Security, before you've started drawing or living off of your IRA dollars, before you're required to start taking dollars out. Maybe you find yourself in a low tax bracket today and you believe your taxes will be higher in the future. That's the very first and sort of the quintessential time period that you're going to want to do a Roth conversion. The second time period where you've got to consider doing a Roth conversion is when the stock market's down. When the stock market's down, when honestly you're looking at your statement thinking, oh my goodness, have I just made a big mistake? I don't like seeing these, or maybe you don't even want to look at your statement because you know the market's down and you don't want to look at how painful it could be. That's the time you look to make lemonade out of lemons. You look to convert money from your IRA to your Roth, do a Roth conversion so that whenever things rebound in your investments in the stock market, that rebound happens in a tax-free account instead of the taxable account. Basically, if your account is down 15%, and I'm just pulling that number out of the hat. Maybe you would consider doing this if the market's down 20 or 25%. Maybe you'd consider if the market was only down 10. I don't know. It's up to you. You got to work with your CFP on that. But say the market's down 15%. So you had this much, it's now this. You convert that you're paying tax on that smaller amount because values are down, stocks are on sale, if you will. And now you've got that money over here, so you've paid less tax because there's less dollars that you contributed, but now it's over in your Roth IRA, and when it rebounds that 15% and goes even higher, that is all happening in a tax-free account. So second time to consider a Roth conversion has nothing to do with tax rates at all or your tax bracket. Is the stock market down? That's the time to consider doing a Roth conversion. I have the best story about this, guys. I was working with some folks. Now, they've since moved and we're friends, but we're not doing comprehensive financial planning anymore. They reach out every once in a while with a quick question, but it was after the 2008 Great Financial Crisis, which for those of you that didn't live through it or maybe have amnesia, they bottomed in March of 2009, okay? Well, come 2010, markets were on their way back up, but we were still well below where things were in 2007 before the crisis. And it was at that time, 2010, that the IRS made two big moves with Roth conversions. Number one, they removed the income limit needed in order to do a Roth conversion. It used to be you couldn't have adjusted gross income above $100,000. If you did, you weren't allowed to do Roth conversions. The IRS said if your income's too high, you can't pay any more taxes. Can you believe it? So they lifted that in 2010, and they also, in this plea to try to get tax dollars, they even said if you do a Roth conversion this year, you can spread the tax evenly over the next 2 years. I mean, guys, think about this. That was 12 years ago. And now we don't really care about that. We're spending money hand over fist, huge deficit, and there's not. Anyway, back then they were looking at that problem saying we need tax revenue and therefore we're going to encourage people to do Roth conversions. And I remember talking to this couple and they were working through it and they weren't in a low tax bracket at the time, but they kept looking at this saying, gosh, maybe we should do it. And we ran the numbers and yeah, there's no doubt you should. And it was, okay, well, how much should we do? And it was, well, we could probably stand this much. And then he said, I know, but listen, we just had one of the worst time periods in the stock market history, and we've got this unique time where maybe we could convert more. So he talked himself up to converting half of it. Called me a couple months later and said, Mike, I just can't see why I wouldn't convert all of the money right now. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? I think it was around $500,000 that he voluntarily paid tax on at that time. That was crazy to do. No, we're all crazy because we all should have done that back then. He was right. He was right. So a negative year in the stock market or down times in the stock market, those are times to consider Roth conversion. And then the third time to consider doing a Roth conversion is a loss of income. It's a similar thing as option number one or time period number one, where you think you're in a low tax bracket today and pay more in the future, but just a slight twist, okay? If you all of a sudden have a loss of income. Now, yes, it might mean that the number one applies, okay? But if you normally get a bonus, but this year you find out you're not. If you are paid on commission and all of a sudden things are struggling, you know your income's going to be down. If you were supposed to get a raise and you've been communicated, it's been delayed. If you've got other side income that you didn't have as many jobs this year, or that side income went away, something like that. If you have a loss of income, that's a time to consider doing a Roth conversion. Maybe you and your spouse both work and your spouse decided to go part-time, or your spouse decided or lost their job or switched jobs and there was a time period in between. Loss of income can trigger that first reason, which is we all of a sudden are in a low tax bracket and believe our tax rates will be higher in the future. So look for loss of income as another reason, another time period where you might say, yeah, I think we should do a Roth conversion. Those three time periods, those three ideas, still work with your certified financial planner. Those are clues, but work with your CFP on whether you should, when you should, how much you should, how to handle the taxes, which investment strategies to move from, which investment strategies to go into, and the time of the year in which to do it. Lots of decisions need to be made once you find yourself in one of those three time periods when you say, yeah, I should do a Roth conversion. That then starts the process of how to do it, how much to do, how to handle the taxes, how to manage the investments. Lots of decisions. Work with your certified financial planner on that and all other decisions. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with a K. WiseMoneyShow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.